The 5 words that we were given: Ricard, compete, unfortunate, prayer, and telephone. Our job was to create a functional story incorporating those 5 words either as themes or actual words within the story. We went all over the place, from organized crime action thriller to we landed on a wholesome story that kind of has a good message to it. And obviously, as you're listening to this, there are things that could be added. There's details to make some of these things, these scenes, a lot better and more impactful. But mind you, we're trying to create something from scratch in one sitting. I don't think any great screenplays have ever been written in a single sitting on the first draft. So this is our shot at it.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I think I'll start, and then you could do the middle since you have more. I think you have a more better grasp of that with the wake and stuff, and then we can end it. Okay, so
sure.
Story starts off with our star soccer player Anthony Lee. He's in the locker room, stringing up his cleats, doing his visualization exercises. He hears a crowd outside going wild, maybe chanting his name. He hears a bzz, bzz, a sound from his phone, looks over. It's his best friend's Henry's mom. And, he's known Henry and his family since he was younger, so they're practically family themselves. So, as usual, he probably thinks it's Henry's mom wishing him a good luck, as she usually does before his games. He picks up the phone, sees a text. Henry's mom says, "Call me as soon as you can." So he has a few minutes before he leaves to the pitch. So he gives her a call. And Henry's mom tells Anthony that Henry is in critical condition. He's in the hospital. Henry has had a history of depression and has been struggling with his mental health. And this time he actually tried to commit suicide. But they were able to find him in time, get him transported to the hospital, and now he's in his hospital bed, unconscious, but he's breathing still. So Anthony, it's a big game for him. He wants to talk more. He wants to learn more details, but he's a game to play, right? Maybe the coach comes in, tells him, "Lee, you got to get out there, on the warm-ups. Where are you?" So he has to tell Henry's mom, Mrs. Moore, I'll call you back after the game, and I'll swing by as soon as I can. He goes out, plays a fantastic game. Maybe scores a hat trick, whatever. A huge game. And in his mind, he's dedicating this game to his friend Henry. So he's getting all this admiration, post-game interviews, and whatnot. Anthony flies back to the hospital where Henry is. He shows up to the floor. Nurses tell him that visiting hours are over. He's like, "Oh, I just want to pop in and see my friend." They recognize him. They're like, "Wait, aren't you Anthony Lee?" He's like, "Yes, I am." And they're like, they're all in all of him, blah, blah, blah. So he uses this as an advantage to get past them, right? He's like, "Yeah, I would have visited earlier, but I had the game to play. Do you mind if I just step in for a minute, just see my friend? He's been my friend since childhood, right? Just sprinkle in a little sad story in to try to persuade him over." So they let him through. He goes into Henry's room. Henry's still unconscious, sleeping. Henry's parents are still there. He has a quick conversation with them. They tell him what happened. They showed up home. They found Henry unconscious on the floor with a bottle of pills laying next to him. They immediately called the ambulance. It's a good thing he wasn't passed out for that long, so they were able to pretty much revive him, resuscitate him. It's late. Anthony, usually in his past life, he would sleep in the hospital room, but he decides to go back to his apartment, his penthouse. He's living a high life now. He's a star, right? He goes back to his penthouse. He's feeling terrible. He doesn't want to feel terrible anymore, so he tries to escape. Uses all the good headlines, all the good comments, messages to kind of help him sleep. Right. So next day he shows up to the hospital room. Henry's awake. First he consoles Henry, saying he's happy he's okay. He's glad that he's alive. Tells him how much he appreciates him. He then turns this into kind of a confrontational thing. He's like, what were you thinking? I thought we were making progress, man. Anthony has helped Henry, talked him off the ledge a couple times before. This is like actual first time that Henry has actually tried to attempt it, gone through with it. So he's like, what would you, your parents are here. How would they feel if you actually died, right? So he feels like he's gotten through to Henry, talks some sense into him. Feels like this experience is going to make turn Henry for the better. So Henry gets discharged from the hospital a few days later. Anthony meets up with Henry, just to talk, just to catch up. Takes him to their old stomping grounds, their college field. They're kicking the ball back and forth. They're just chatting. He tells Henry, he's like, hey, they're reminiscing about old times, how they used to play together on this field. Tells Henry, hey, I know we don't talk as much as we used to because, I can't, I'm busy with all this stuff. You know how it goes with media, practice, playing and all that. Henry seems to understand, says he's happy for everything that Anthony's accomplished. And then Anthony has to leave. He gets hit with a massive opportunity. GM calls him and tells him that a team from Europe wants to contract his services, wants to have him play as a fill-in for a few games. And it's Liverpool, right? So this is Anthony's dream. This is what he's been working for ever since he was little, to play overseas in front of a global audience in a huge stadium, sold out crowds for a recognizable and an elite team out there full of other star players. So he takes the opportunity, right? Says goodbyes to everyone, goes there. Now he's living a champagne life, right? This is a massive opportunity for him. He's flying private. He's going to parties, meeting other global superstars of soccer, of football. And he's meeting celebrities. He's partying, posting everything on social media, him living champagne lifestyle, him, buying bottles of $100,000 champagnes and just wasting it, spraying it everywhere, in pools full of beautiful women, just living the high life, right? The high life as a young superstar. But still, he's a good person on the inside, right? He doesn't forget where he comes from. Takes the time to write a thoughtful carded message to Henry and his family, saying how thankful he is for them, how they've how they've always been there for him since he was little. Because they always say they've always sent him messages on how proud they are of him, even though Anthony and Henry's soccer careers took opposite turns, right, when it started to get serious. So he buys them, sends them a package, the card, buys them all Rolexes, because why not? He can afford it. and things are going well. He's talking to Henry again. They're FaceTiming. Everything just seems good on the surface. Henry uh, thanks Anthony for everything he's done for him regarding his mental health, trying to talk to him when he can. He he appreciates him as a friend, basically, and as a brother. Anthony says, "Yeah, of course, I'm always going to be here for you. If you ever need someone to talk to, you're going through something, you're feeling uneasy, just send me a text. I'm a phone call away. You know how to reach me. I'll always pick up and answer." And then, things start to skyrocket for Anthony's career. Right, he's killing it. He's living up to the hype. He's over delivering in his role on Liverpool, and things are looking great. Things are looking great. And his contract time, the duration for it, is coming to an end. And there are talks of Liverpool wanting to sign him to an even longer term deal. So this doesn't have to be a temporary thing for him. He can actually live out his dream permanently. And this is when things start to change for our main character here. So Dave, why don't you take us into this next part of the story?
Yeah, so after getting this exciting news, and again, news that will catapult his life even further, Anthony gets a call from Miss Moore that Henry has killed himself. And she takes on a consoling role at this point, trying to make Anthony know that he wasn't the one to cause anything that led to Henry passing on. And this makes, Anthony is really shocked and paralyzed. He thought everything was on the up and up. His career was on the up and up. He thought Henry was doing better because they were having conversations. And Henry recently called him and he spoke to him and thanked him. But Anthony didn't know that was pretty much the last goodbyes. Anthony goes to, at this point, the wake, and he's still in a state of not knowing how to deal with his emotions. Anger, sadness, all those things are playing against each other. But also the fact that his career is doing better are all jockeying for position. And what Anthony does at the wake is he bends over and gives Henry, he says a little prayer for Henry that if he could hear it, only he would hear it, and instead his spirit will be able to hear it. Anthony decides to extend his contract and stay in Europe to play, as this would be the best decision for his career. Again, he thinks this is going to push him further. However, this time when he takes the pitch, his performance on the field begins to go down, which causes backlash from fans and reporters, pretty much saying, is he, a short-term wonder? He had all this potential, but was it just for a short term? The headlines start to mess with him. The comments on social media start to get to him. This causes him to get further depressed and causes him to not play as well. Eventually, he gets cut. He's not performing. Now he's back to square one, teamless. He returns to the U.S. He goes to his old club and to ask them to bring him back. And they do, even though they're also worried that he won't be able to perform up to the level that he was performing, even when he was on the U.S. team. He decides that he's going to sit himself out, and they have him run through practices to see what he can do, and maybe he can get better. But it's not looking good, looking kind of grim. As a way to kind of get over his problems and just deal with all the pressure that he's been mounting on his own shoulders, and putting himself in a state of isolation, he starts to discuss his problems on social media during this hiatus. And this helps him not only come to terms with what happened with Henry, but it helps him understand his emotions and his thoughts, his feelings on the passing of his friend. And the most interesting things happens that he gains supporters. So all the naysayers that were saying these terrible things about him in social media and in the press, either begin to fall silent, or to become his supporters on social media. And this only helps Anthony gain more confidence in sharing his thoughts, his feelings, his emotions with more people, as there's a lot of people going through similar issues that he's going through, similar ideas, and they just don't have anyone else to really share them with. And there's a community started to be built around that shared pain and that shared isolation, and they're starting not to feel as isolated just by having someone so visible globally come out and have these conversations, these very raw, authentic conversations online. Anthony decides he needs to really focus on making himself his best self. Living in the past and being sad and depressed, as sad as the events were, are not going to help him move forward with his life. It doesn't mean he's going to forget his friend, but he seeks out help, and through that help, through therapy, come to understanding that he's not the cause of his friend's passing, and that he still needs to. It would be in his best interest to move forward, right? So he starts to practice almost religiously, day and night. He's always practicing. He's continuing to share his mental health status and his thoughts and his feelings online, and continues to build that community. By the time, after some time, we're going to have the first game that he's going to play in. He steps onto the field after a long time. And as you can imagine, he's unsure of what emotions he's going to have, but also what people are going to feel and think about seeing him on the field. The last time he was on the field, he's getting booed. Terrible things were being written about him, and now he's returning to the field, and he's just that unsureness about what's going to happen next. He walks out of that tunnel. The fans see him. They cheer him. They applaud his return. His confidence really starts to shine, as you can see in his face. His confidence is back. He has an amazing game. He's feeling like his old self. But now he's even better because he's come full circle, right? He's already a great player. He had this incident happen, and he didn't know how to deal with it. And now he's someone who is here to play a great game. He understands his emotions, and he's able to better communicate his emotions. As the game ends and the players begin to walk off the field, one of the fans rushes him to try to meet him at the tunnel. As security is pulling him away, the fan tells him how he's helped him by helping so that way he didn't commit suicide. And Anthony kind of brushes away the security and hears him out, which is kind of the point, to be able to hear out folks who are having these thoughts and ideas. And he hears him out. And again, the guy tells him, how him having these conversations online in his world reduced the stigma and made him seek help and talk more about how he was feeling. And he saved him from suicide. And, well,
And that is the end of
that's the
our
way
story.
we ended this story.
All right. So to top off our story, we need to give it a title.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Bend
Now,
it like Anthony.
Oh my God. Henry's
Goals,
story.
goals, and trolls.
Soccer and football. Um,
You get one shot.
Henry's dilemma. Anthony's. It's not really Anthony's redemption.
One shot.
That just sounds like a 90s movie. One shot. Moving forward. Sounds more like a book title than anything else.
Moving forward. Yeah. That's like
It's
a
not
play on
great.
word.
Yeah. Because he's a forward. It's not great though. Or it's barely even. It's decent. What's the name? So we have Anthony Lee. Lee's realization. Anthony Lee. We have Henry. Soccer. The pitch.
The game off the field. The
Behind the pitch.
behind the pitch. It's not bad. Outside the pitch.
It's not bad either. Outside the pitch. Off the field.
Off the field. Yep. The greatest game ever played. Off the field.
I got it.
What you got?
This is it. Anthony's prayer.